scholars, elders, youth, leaders, and friends of African liberation across the world. On behalf of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, the UNIA-ACL, it is my profound honor and privilege to welcome you to this historic recorded session. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Gordon-Dudu. My Shona name is Kuda Kwashe. They call me Kuda for short. I am currently the global organizer, which in the UNIA is referred to as international organizer of the UNIA-ACL. And today we stand at a powerful crossroads of history, legacy, and future direction. The session forms part of our global education, continuity, and rehabilitation series created to preserve authentic Garveyite history, strengthen intergenerational leadership, and anchor our movement firmly in the founding vision of our beloved Right Honorable Marcus Garvey. Today, we are deeply honored to host a distinguished elder, statesman, and torchbearer of Garveyism, Brother Dr. Senghor Bhaye, former President General of the UNIA-ACL and founding leader of the Rehabilitation Committee 2020, RC 2020. Our guest carried the mantle of leadership during one of the most sensitive and defining periods in the modern history of our movement. His stewardship, discipline, constitutional loyalty, and commitment to organizational integrity continue to shape the UNIA-ACL today. The historic dialogue will reflect on the living continuity of Garvey's 1914 vision, the constitutional authority of 1918 and 1929, the enduring mission of the African Communities League, the values behind the leadership transition to President General Michael Duncan, the global implications of the January 19, 2025 posthumous pardon of Marcus Garvey by President Joe Biden, and the critical role of Rehabilitation Committee 2020, RC 2020, in safeguarding authenticity and restoring order. Most importantly, this dialogue is for the next generation, the students, organizers, educators, and leaders who will carry this movement forward with truth, discipline, unity, and purpose. Brother Senghor Bhaye, on behalf of the worldwide UNIA family, we welcome you with deep respect, gratitude, and honor. Welcome.
Yes, it's Doctor. Doctor, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. And we've been communicating for some time, and it's always been a pleasure whenever I get the word sound power coming from you, because I can feel the sincerity in your heart. I am a humble servant, an obedient servant to the Most High. Whatever name you call the Most High, I'm a firm believer in oneness. As a Garveyite, I've studied under many who work with Garvey. But more importantly, I'm a humble servant to the call of our ancestors, those who've come before us. Of course, the Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Garvey, and I could not leave out Amy Jocks Garvey, and I won't leave out Amy Ashwood Garvey. But Amy Jocks Garvey is very important to us because she is the main person who documented all of the words and speeches and works of Marcus Garvey while he was incarcerated in Atlanta Penitentiary. And not only that, she actually was the aide-de-camp and executive secretary and legal counsel and protector, which a lot of people need to study her legacy to really understand how Marcus Garvey was able to accomplish a lot of what he did. And then they had plenty of people around them, many ancestors, too many to name. So I'm just following in that legacy, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Senghor Bhaye, Dr. Bhaye. The first question we're going to kick off the session with is the continuity of the 1914 vision. I had the privilege to study the course of African philosophy and also to study the UNIA orientation with the current Minister of Education, Brother Oster Bryan. And I am so extremely grateful to the two tutors or mentors who have taken me through these two courses. The course of African philosophy was facilitated by President John Hargrove, who is the president of Atlanta, Georgia, Division 421, and Brother Oster is the president of Division, it's not 429, but it's the division in Queens. And I'm so extremely grateful that these two brothers opened my eyes in knowing so much that I was in the dark. Finally, I see the light. I know now where we come from. I know the hardship that our ancestors went through. I am now awoke. I'm aware of what lies behind, what is present, and what is in the future. And I would like to invite many other of our listeners to join these two training sessions. Through our YouTube channel, we will put you in contact with these mentors that are spearheading these two programs. So for me to even be doing this interview with you, Brother Dr. Senghor, I am a baby when it comes to the history of the UNIA in comparison to the information, the years of service you have put into the UNIA. I've just been with the UNIA for 2 years. I cannot compare my knowledge with the knowledge that you have. And this is why it's so important to invite you, our elders, our statesmen, our mentors, our torchbearers, to come and shed more light, to enlighten us more as to where we are coming from, where we currently are in the present, and where we are going to in the future. With that being said, please do pardon me when I'm not at the same level with you. I've made it clear that I'm definitely not at the same level with the knowledge of our history that you have. So to kick off, the first question will be, Brother Senghor, how does today's UNIA-ACL, under the authority of the 1918 and the 1929 Constitution, maintain direct continuity with the original 1914 vision of our founder, the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey?
It's a really powerful question, and I'm glad you shared what you shared. So just for clarity, Brother John, President John of 421, and Ross Marvin actually took a course of the African philosophy from me. And I want to make that clear because...
Oh, you taught him well, because Brother John taught me.
Well,
so...
well, here's the interesting thing, though, that most people got to understand. When Marcus Garvey first taught the course of African philosophy, the UNIA was under rehabilitation. And in 1938, he taught 42 lessons, not 22. 22 were published in the book. I also studied under the Honorable Charles L. James, who scored highest in the course taught directly by Marcus Garvey. I also sat at the feet of my brother, who will be probably joining us later, Baba Achille Nkrumah, who took the course from Thomas W. Harvey. And the reason I'm setting the tone for this so I can bring you up to date, because many people can teach the course or many people can read the book, but only those who have taken the course directly from someone who took the course actually know how to carry out the works of teaching the course. Because it's not just reading the book, It's not just going over that. It's going over life lessons in the movement. Marcus Garvey taught the course to many, but Charles L. James actually had Tony Martin, and I was there when it was done in the 80s, published the book, Message to the People, The Course of African Philosophy, edited by Tony Martin, because they got word that Robert Hill had gotten the course from someone who took the mail-in course, and I'll explain that after a while, from Amy Jocks Garvey's records, and he was going to publish a book. So we want to make sure that people understand just reading the book is not the way why the course was done. The course was done to bring things back on course. And I want to make that clear, because today we have established the Rehabilitating Committee, the Marcus Garvey Honor Society. And that's very important, because everybody that's in the Marcus Garvey Honor Society has taken the course from either myself or President General Baba Akili Nkrumah, who took the course directly from Honorable Charles L. James and Thomas W. Harvey. Now, there are a few other people out here who did take the course in various ways, and that's okay. But we want to make sure that people understand it's not just about studying and taking the course. It's about putting the living Garveyism into practical application, learning how to interpret the Constitution, learning how to respect those who you may not agree with, learning how to not disagree with other Garveyites when they're charged with something, because there is a method to deal with that constitutionally. I'm gonna come back to that. But anyway, getting back to your answer to your question. So the course is very important, but also studying the philosophy and opinion, studying race first, studying, of course, that book we just talked about, The Message to the People, and actually living and respecting those who walked with those who walk with Marcus Garvey. So this is very important, because as I said earlier, Garvey did the course because we had gotten off course. Not only was he charged, and we'll come back to that, by these United States of snakes illegally and sent out of the country, he went to Jamaica, where he was disrespected there, and also went up against some very serious things. And then he went on to the UK. He decided to teach the course after publishing the Black Man magazine of African philosophy to help put leadership back on course. Charles L. James, many other President Generals, and Thomas W. Harvey and sisters took that course and were able to keep the movement on course despite the fact that Garvey was under attack. That's very important. So we in Rehabilitating Committee 2020, and some of those other folks that we will be talking about later, have to understand that you can never disrespect those who were touched by the ancestors who were touched by Garvey, because we are never going to lay down. And I'm going to come back to it. I'll close on this point. But in 2016, as I told you earlier before we started this, things got off course. And we decided, rather than to complain and go against what went wrong at that point in time, to try to make things right. Well, 2017 rolled around, 2018 rolled around, 2019 rolled around, and more confusion and discontent and personality conflict continue to happen, because a lot of the leadership that is with the parent body of the Rehabilitating Committee was still working specifically with Brother Duncan. And as I said in my book, I refused to move forward with that particular administration because the transition was not smooth. So what we're doing is trying to speak truth to power, let all the Garveyites know there's no love lost, but we on course with what we call to do. And we ain't gonna make the same mistakes that were made back during the times of Garvey, during the times of Amy Jocks Garvey and Charles L. James and Thomas W. Harvey, because we want to pass on the true legacy. And I know a lot of the other questions, and I know you're gonna hit me with some questions, and I will welcome the President General of RC 2020 and the Third Assistant President General, but let them know we are going through a question and answer period, and then after that we're going to do dialogue. So I wanted to let y'all know, because I made it clear to the doctor, it ain't about me, it's about we. And I don't move as an individual. I move collective. That's why I invited y'all to be here with me. And I know y'all gonna get a chance to chime in. And of course, I'm going to speak truth to power from the best of my ability. But if I'm short in anything, I got some support here to help pick me up. So that's pretty much it, Queen. We got to stay the course. We got to learn the Constitution. We got to understand how to use the Constitution, and we got to
Yes.
understand how to be morally respectful to people and not just accuse people of things without taking it to a particular justice forum where we can find out the truths of what is instead of following the hearsay.
Thank you so much for that very elaborate, detailed response to this question. And yes, from studying the course of African philosophy, it is very clear that we are guided by the Constitution in how to deal with different issues at different levels. So I'm glad that you referenced the Constitution in that with regards to the elections that took place in, is it 2016?
Yes.
2016. So just to refresh my mind, in the Constitution, how many terms is the President General supposed to have if you are a UNIA President General? And maybe if you could also, for our listeners, if you could also let them know from what period to what period were you President General of the UNIA?
Sure.
Please.
So first, I'll let people know I served as President General. I was elected in 2008 in Philadelphia. And I want to make that clear because I never was elected in my home ground. And that's important, and I'll explain why. But anyway.
And which is your home ground?
Washington, D.C.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, from 2008, I served 4-year term. And then again in Atlanta, Georgia, in 2012, I was reelected again to serve a second term that went to 2016. Again, that election was held in Atlanta. And that's very important because, the Constitution does not say how many terms a President General can serve, but it does indicate the procedures and the way about going about the elections, the way about being respectful. And as long as I've been in the UNIA, only a few times were President Generals elected in their own home ground territory. And that's important because the UNIA doesn't have the thousands upon thousands of members that it used to have. And then also there's an electoral process that has to take place before any convention. And that's important because in 2016, we did some things a little different than what we had been trained and done in the past, where you only have a specific amount of delegates, and we kind of opened the floor for all members to be able to vote if their dues were paid. That's important too. I'll come back to that. So the answer to your question is you can serve as many terms as you want, but all throughout the time I've been in the UNIA, President Generals have served no more than 2 terms. 2 terms, but that is not an issue. The issue is how you become elected and whether or not things are done right, legally, and handled the right way. And as I told you earlier in our conversation earlier, I will explain a little detail what I explained in my book. 2016, things went really off course about morally and principally how the election was held. And it was done in such a way where we accepted nominations from the floor, which were never done before. Most of the time, most of the people knew coming into the convention who was running for those offices. So it was a couple of changes that helped create the kind of situation that got Duncan elected in 2016. And I also know all the results and how that went down. And there were some people who actually voted who were not actually up-to-date paid members. And we know all about that. So anyway, we don't want to complain about it. It went down like way it did. The reality is it was not done in such a way where the transition was looking like it was going to go the right way, and it didn't. And so I just wanted to clarify that. But I want to make it clear also that we knew in 2020 that we had to revamp because the ancestors were calling us to set the record straight. And so that's why you have the Rehabilitating Committee remanifested, by the way, because the Rehabilitating Committee came after Garvey. And then it also came after Harvey, and it came after me, because things did not go the way we believe Marcus Garvey, Amy Josh Garvey, and our ancestors wanted them to go. So that's why you had the UNIA-ACL Government Rehabilitating Committee 2020, and you have other entities. So we also say, the work will judge who and what we are as we go forward.
Thank you so much for that explanation as well. When you talk about the Rehabilitating Committee came during Harvey's time, as well as Garvey's time, I think I heard you mention that there's something Garvey did during the period where it was a rehabilitation committee. Could you please explain on?
Yes, well, actually, Marcus Garvey, when he was coming under attack by the government of the United States, a whole lot of things went on. But there were also people in the organization or in the movement that were corrupted as well. In fact, you had the Attorney General of New York, who actually became the Assistant Attorney General of the United States government, who testified against Marcus Garvey. So you had a lot of people that were African that did not stay true to the moral principles of brotherhood and sisterhood. So what happens is, Garvey saw that, and he did the Black Man magazine. He also ran into problems in his own home birthplace, Jamaica. So he saw that, and he tried to do everything he could to rehabilitate that. He called it rebuilding the government while he was in the UK. Part of it was the course of African philosophy, but part of it also was him striving to continue to stay in contact with people like Thomas W. Harvey. And if you look at the Black Man magazine, you'll see Thomas W. Harvey and Charles L. James all in it. That's not to overstand Sherrill, who was also a president general, and also was in 1957, actually was in Ghana when Kwame Nkrumah was ordained, and then also Stewart. We don't want to take nothing away from them, but if you look at the Black Man magazine, you'll find that those people who were with James and Harvey were all over the place during the time that Garvey was excommunicated. So they were two of the major players that helped continue the rehabilitating process. So in Philadelphia, Thomas W. Harvey had established the Rehabilitating Committee because there also was a group in Cleveland, Ohio, that was contesting him and were trying to move in the direction left by the legacy of Stewart. So that's another issue altogether, but it is important for us to recognize that that's why Garvey was rebuilding or striving for the government to be rebuilt under the leadership. And I see the PG chopping at the bits, but can you hold PG until she goes through these questions? I got you. So I just wanted to lay that out because I know President General Akili Nkrumah's got some insight. Because like I said, I came in, and he's one of the main reasons I was able to stay in the movement from 1980, because he's been in the movement for longer than me.
Well, Brother Akili?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Baba Akili Nkrumah knew Thomas W. Harvey. I never got to meet Thomas W. Harvey. I came in 1980 after Thomas W. Harvey had transitioned, but Baba Akili had the honor and pleasure of studying under both Thomas W. Harvey and Charles L. James and Sister Isaac, all who took the course of African philosophy. So he came out of Philadelphia, and I know later on we're going to get into why Philadelphia is so important and why what's going on right now is so important, because things ain't going right the way things went in Philadelphia legally. And I'll get into that later.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I want to keep the momentum. Yes. I don't want our, skewed questions to derail us from the momentum. But the next question is based on the constitutional authority and governance. What key governance principles from the 1918 and 1929 constitutions still actively guide the structure, discipline, and leadership order of the UNIA-ACL today?
Well, I speak to the RC 2020 Rehabilitating Committee because that's very important that you said that. Even in the Constitution, it says that everybody that serves as President General should have taken the course of African philosophy. That did not happen after 2016, unfortunately, but that's important. Also, anytime you have stocks that are sold through UNIA meetings, that it's also spoken about in the Constitution that should not take place in that kind of manner unless it's controlled and owned by the government, not by individuals in the government or in leadership. That's another very important point. And we saw that as being a conflict of interest. And these were brought to the table. I mean, it's not like we did not try to bring these to the table, but they were never able to be discussed because once again, after 2016, the leadership did not quite understand. And let's be clear, I said it in my book, a lot of that leadership that came into existence only had 2 years of existence in the UNIA, did not understand a lot of the working relationships, and most of all did not understand that they were appointed by the previous administration, meaning we put them into power. And I'm not complaining because this was the time that Donald Trump came into existence. I came into existence around Barack Obama's time in 2008. 2016, Trump was elected. And at the same time, that's when I went out of power. So it's not about a power play. It is about principle and integrity. So the answer to your question basically is there's a whole lot of points in the Constitution that have not been followed properly by the leadership from that leadership on that side. But the RC 2020 is very clear that we're going to be a stickler to following the Constitution and most of all, the morals and principles of African leadership. And as I told you earlier, we believe African women lead. That's important to us.
Thank you, Brother Senghor. While we're still on this issue of the government, I don't know if we can maybe just, for our viewers to understand, when you're mentioning the government, is the UNIA a government?
Absolutely. In 1920, an official government was established where African people came from all over the world and established the government. The Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World was established, and it was established a government in exile, meaning a government for all African people, not controlled by anybody other than us. And that is when the government became official. Dr. Tony Martin proved to us in the 1980s and documented that even white governments respected us at one time as a government. And so that's very important because we have been hoodwinked to think of European governments rather than African governments. And even on the continent of Africa, you have governments that have established based in the European model. So, but what Garvey was proposing was a government of African people at home and abroad, being able to control Africa, being able to control the Africans' destiny. And we did everything that a government needs to do short of maintaining a landmass. Of course, we know what happened with Liberia, but it is important to understand we have a flag, we have a constitution.
So for our listeners,
yes,
please can you touch on to what happened in Liberia? Because I think that is very important for our listeners to know what happened in Liberia, because I think at that point, that is exactly where the government had really now solidified itself. Could you please touch on Liberia?
Well, yes, Liberia, there was a contractual relationship for the UNIA to return to Liberia, to repatriate to Liberia and build a government there. Unfortunately, that did not take place because a lot of Black people and certainly white folks were paranoid to death, were afraid because they didn't want to see they saw how fast Garvey was able to travel around the world and unite African people. So they knew if he was able to set up in Liberia that it was going to be problems for some of the things that they've been doing. So that land was pushed to Firestone, and a lot of the equipment that the UNIA had sent to Liberia was confiscated. And also, a lot of people were hoodwinked to think that the Garvey movement was wanting to go to Liberia to take over. That's not what really happened. And I'm sure that's what the powers that be here were convincing the leadership of Liberia that Garvey was planning on going there to take over. That's not what we were planning on doing. Garvey wanted to utilize Liberia, and the UNIA wanted to utilize Liberia simply as the base. And later on, we'll talk about the importance of the history of Liberia, as well as Sierra Leone, as well as West Africa. And why it's so important for us to continue to look at ourselves as a government is because we made a lot of mistakes back then, but certainly there was no conflict of interest that was clarified between Liberia and the UNIA. It was always external forces that came into play. W. Du Bois played a lot in the process of discouraging the Liberian government from dealing properly with the Garvey movement. So that land, Firestone land, was actually leased to Firestone, and to this day is still controlled by Firestone. UNIA lost out on that deal, and at the same time, Garvey was fighting back here for his legacy on this end. So there was a lot of pressure that came, but the government of Liberia actually dropped the ball. Other governments of the world actually did everything they could to block the UNIA from establishing itself in Liberia. Representatives actually went to Liberia to try to make the establishment, and it did not take place. So I would stop there because it's a lot that we could talk about, but the fact of the matter is the world was afraid to allow the repatriation process of the government of the UNIA to happen at that particular time.
What time was that?
Well, that was
in
the 1920s.
1922, 23, 24?
The mid-20s. The mid-20s.
Okay. And this was because Garvey he served the 2-year sentence, 1925 to 1927. Was this the time Garvey was incarcerated, or was it the time
just before? Just before.
So that's around 1924.
But they both run into each other, if you know, because it was during the time of the rise in 1920 after the convention. As you move forward, shortly after that is when he was shot. Shortly after that is when he was attacked. Shortly after that is when he appealed the charges, and that's why it came to 1925. But all during that process, the whole thing with Liberia was taking place.
The mission of the African Communities League, how would you describe the original mission of the African Communities League, the ACL, and why is that mission still urgently relevant in our present global conditions?
Well, what most people don't know, it was two entities that were established in 1918. One was the UNIA Inc., UNIA Incorporated, and the other one was the African Communities League. Well, they were established because when Garvey came to the United States, he was told and he was directed to try to set up these entities. Unfortunately, personality conflicts went into place, and both were taken away from Garvey's control prior to 1920. But Garvey got back control of the UNIA Inc., and the ACL was defunct. But in the 1920 convention, the African Communities League concept, was combined with the UNIA. And that's why you have 1918 to 1929 Constitution. And you find out that the African Communities League, that's when the UNIA became the UNIA-ACL of the world. And it's important because the African Communities League was actually the business arm that was designed to create business entities connected to the government and create a collaboration. So fast forward, that's why the Rehabilitating Committee is in the process of rehabilitating the race and rehabilitating the government, because we want all people, not just entrepreneurs, but people who understand that are Pan-Africanists, that are in business, they can become a part of that African Communities League. But because they are both connected today, you would not just be connecting to the African Communities League, you would be actually connecting to the government, the UNIA-ACL, if you understand what I'm saying. It's very important. And then you also have entities that the UNIA established: the Black Cross Nurses, the Negro Factories Corporation, the Black Star Line, the Youth Motor Corps, the Youth Juvenile Divisions, and then you also had several other entities that were established. They became the African Communities League. So when you look at the Constitution of 1918 and 1929, you see a combination of the entities I just mentioned, the Black Cross nurses, the Legionnaires, and those things are actually in the back of the Constitution. So that's where you have them coming together. And because of what happened with the Black Star Line that came under attack at the same time, now we're dealing with the same time now frame of what we talking about, Liberia and all this, all these came under attack. But the Black Star Line was a business that came under the African Communities League, designed not just to carry people from place to place, but to use and transfer goods and services place to place. That's very important. So the African Communities League became actually a part of the government, and we're not an autonomous entity. Now, UNIA Inc. is an autonomous entity, and I'm happy to tell you that the Rehabilitating Committee leadership controls that entity, UNIA Inc. today too, which is not the government. It's an institution called UNIA Incorporated. We control that. And so there's a lot of things that are important, because it's okay to have corporations that are not in the African Communities League, but you need to establish reputable working relationships if you're not in the African Communities League, if you're about the upliftment of African people. And likewise, the UNIA government needs to establish reputable working relationships with other people who have Black businesses, so that we can basically unite and rehabilitate the race. Because the government is not the only thing that needs to be rehabilitated. The whole race needs to be rehabilitated. So I hope I was clear.
Yes, yes, you have been very, very clear. And as you speak, it just helps to understand how big actually Garvey had a vision for, Africans at home and abroad. I would come back to some questions about the government, but I just want us to reflect a little bit on your presidency.
Yes.
During your tenure as President General, what major achievements, challenges, or historical turning points stand out to you the most during your tenure?
That's very, very important. And I want to, what stood out the most to me, first, I had one of the most powerful first assistant president generals ever. And that's my good brother, who's the president general of Rehabilitating Today Committee 2020. And that's Baba Akili Nkrumah. And I say that, I mean, we're not just brothers. We're not just brothers from another mother. I couldn't have done my 8 years without him, and he couldn't have done, he's serving his second term now. He couldn't do that without me, because that's how we roll. And when I said I was going to run for president general, Baba Akili was actually one who I always looked up to. And I was elected as third assistant president general the same time he was elected as fourth assistant president general. And the reality is, I talked to Baba Akili, and so he came forward. That to me is the most important thing. Not just Baba Akili, but the whole Nkrumah family, because there are many. Hasim Nkrumah, who's an ancestor now, Sister Senghor Nkrumah, who works with us with RC 2020, who is our Auditor General, and Baba Akili, and Baba Sababu, who is our High Chancellor. These are some of the Nkrumahs. And so it's not just Baba Akili. We don't move as individuals, we move as family. But I want to stress, to me, the most important thing that took place is I was able to look at the Constitution and see what we could do to reconnect to what Garvey was doing. And what I decided to do, along with brothers and sisters with me, was appoint ambassadors. And I want the audience to listen to this, because this is important. Because unfortunately, too many of these ambassadors are now ancestors, those that aren't. But in 2016, there was no transition. All of these ancestors, all these ambassadors I'm going to name to you, were never communicated with, and were never continued. They were supposed to be continued as ambassadors or carried on, or told that they were no longer. No communication took place with them. One was Bilal Sunni Ali, who was the ambassador of Belize. He's now an ancestor. The other one was Fulani Sunni Ali, who was ambassador of health and wellness of Central America. And she too is now an ancestor. They were both husband and wife, very powerful people, worked with the PGRNA. I knew them before I was in the UNIA. They were doing great work. Brother Harul Farata, my spiritual son, who's a master at health and wellness and born in Ghana, he was appointed as an ambassador. Tony Browder,
Wow. Great works done so far. All those ambassadors you mentioned, That gave me some goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's what leadership is about being able to transfer knowledge and skills and make sure that, the people can get the same knowledge and information from you through other sources around you, that we don't only have to wait on you only, but you have delegated other key people to still carry the message forward. Thank you for sharing that information. But as a government, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Africa is key, the focus of Africa. And I think the Honorable Marcus Garvey also, when he was elected in 1920 as the President General, during that whole 30 days convention that was held right here in New York, the idea was that he was a President General in the interim for Africa. And at that time, Africa in 1920 only had 2 African states that were independent, which was Liberia was one of them, and Ethiopia, who never was colonized, who fought the war, the Adwa War, and they made sure they did not succumb any colonization. So those were the 2 African states that were independent. The rest, the other, today there's 55 of them. There were 54, but they're 55. So if we subtract 2, that means the rest, 53 of them, were under colonial rule. Country I come from, South Africa, apartheid was rife, was to the, we were pushed there was Group Areas Acts where we were pushed to the side away from, where civilization was. We were pushed out to the rural areas, which is okay, nothing wrong with being in rural areas, but develop people in rural areas as well. If you want people to be living out there, give them the tools to function. So, but that wasn't the case for us in South Africa. In that time, during the 1920s, we went through very difficult times. And I understand why Garvey did what he did and why he saw the UNIA being this government in transition for Africa. And this is where now, unfortunately, powers of the Edgar Hoovers and them that came into play, powers from the dark, that came into play to say, no, we're not going to let Africa be free and have this kind of leadership that they saw happening, like you mentioned earlier on about the Black Star Line, all the ships that we had, not only transporting people, but also transporting goods. You spoke about the ACL part of the UNIA. So all that good stuff was happening around the 1920s to the 1924s before they imprisoned Garvey falsely. So I hear all this good stuff you are saying, and yes, the information is out there for anyone who would like to read about this through Race First by Dr. Tony Martin, through Message to the People by the Honorable Marcus Garvey himself and his wife, Amy Jakes Garvey, through The Course of African Philosophy, which is also authored by Tony Martin, and many other books. There's several other books out there. So to just come back to our questions, defining an authentic UNIA division, from your perspective, what clearly defines an authentic UNIA division under Charter? And how can members distinguish this from other Garveyite or Pan-African groups operating worldwide?
Very good question. Well, actually, only 7 people are required to get a charter under the Rehabilitating Committee. But later on, of course, I hope Chief Fode, who was a perfect example. The major thing that distinguishes us from anybody else is the work that we do, how we enjoin with diplomatically with what's going on, how we stand true to the principles of universal Pan-African nationalism. And one of the things that I will just suggest to you people, because all Pan-Africanists are not necessarily universal African nationalists. And that's important. Scientific Pan-Africanism, by Brother Imhotep Fote, very important because it kind of outlines race first. That's important because everybody that works don't work race first. But for us,
while you're on race first, please, Brother Dr. Senghor, could you please explain to us the terminology race first?
Yes,
what does it mean?
Race first simply means that you look out for yourself and your interests first before anybody else. And that does not mean we're anti anybody, but we're pro us. When Garvey and the UNIA established with the concept of race first, they were talking about doing for Black people. Everything needs to be done focused on Black African people. And race first is a matter of staying true to it. Everybody around the world, like Garvey said in African fundamentalism, practices race first, but we don't. We help build everybody else's race, like we help build America. You know, where's the Black man's control in America? Where's the Black man's control in South Africa? Wherever we are, we should control in our own communities. But particularly on our own African continent, we shouldn't have other people controlling the resources. Africa is race first. And in order for us to get the world straight again, we got to practice a philosophy of race first. Later on, I will talk a little bit about a recent race first convention that was held that my President General, myself, and many of us were at, along with other organizations, because it's not just the UNIA. Many groups, over 35 groups were there. We all race first. And we're saying enough of this integration, enough of this fake democracy, enough of this fake stuff. Then that's not to tell people if they want to do that. But don't get in the way of those of us that are race first, because we are conscious of the importance of us doing for ourselves, and we don't need the other fellow. We don't need nobody else to deal with. We got everything we need. And if we lock, stock, and barrel with each other, we can grow our own food. We can provide our own security. We can set up our own political establishments. We can have our own spiritual controls. That's race first. And then after we practice that properly, we might think about how we can work with other folks. But right now, that ain't nothing to think about. We need to be race first.
Sorry that we're going to sit a little bit on this race first. I heard Roland Martin on his platform criticizing people who say do for self, race first. And he was comparing with Elon Musk, that he's a billionaire today. And where did these billions come from? The government contracts. So he's criticizing that whilst African Americans in America are saying race, do for self. Be mindful that as much as you want to do for self, you do pay taxes, don't you? If you don't pay those taxes, you are going to be followed up by the IRS, and there's going to be some consequences. So for the fact that you pay taxes, why not also knock on the door? But I hear others say, we don't want to beg. You're not begging. I don't think that's begging.
So you talk to the right person, because I live in Washington, D.C. We have taxation without representation. We don't even have a right to vote for the president. Did you hear what I said? So that's a farce. I hear what you're saying, and I understand it. And I understand people have a right to fight for what is justly theirs. But the fact of the matter is, the best way for us to get power is through race first. We'll be powerless whenever we are integrated with other people. And that's very important for us to understand. And what Roland Martin and all of them talking about, I mean, they just talking off the yik yang because they want to be integrated. They want to be empowered in someone else's system. But as Garvey taught us, there will never be any righteousness for Black people as long as we're under the cloak of somebody else's control or government or social services. We need to build our own race first. That's why Africa is confused, because Africans' leadership has to understand you do not need no one else to build. You have everything you need right there. But anyway, I'll stop on that point, because we could go on and on and on, because that's a serious issue. I mean, I understand, but I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm in the so-called nation's capital, and we're here with taxation without representation right here. Perfect example. So just because you pay taxes does not mean you're going to be properly represented. That's my point.
Thank you for clarifying that point. Thank you. That's very heartbreaking. Taxation without representation. It's my first time hearing the terminology. Thank you, Brother Senghor. We're going to move to question number 7, the 2025 posthumous pardon. What are your personal reflections on the January 19, 2025 posthumous pardon of the High Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Garvey by President Joe Biden?
Well, first I got to give people a little history. I was at a meeting in Washington when the Congress refused to exonerate Garvey, where Dr. Julius Garvey, Marcus Garvey Jr., Doc Ben, Doc Clark, Queen Mother Moore, so many other people were there. And that moved forward because the government refused to accept the position the UNIA took for calling for the exoneration. Exoneration implies he was not guilty. Pardon implies he was guilty. So we're not for that. But the only option that Dr. Garvey and those that were fighting for the exoneration had was to explore the executive branch, which does not have the power in America to exonerate in that fashion, but they can pardon. So that's happened. So we're pleased that happened. It ups the conversation. However, RC 2020, back in the early 20s, exonerated Garvey. And we say we exonerate Garvey in our minds because even though pardon does not imply exoneration, and I want to make it clear, because not only was Garvey harmed, Garvey's family was harmed, the UNIA was harmed, and when you exonerate, you open the door for us to have that repair. But when you pardon, that implies he was guilty, so there is no option to support anything or any claim. We lost a lot of property. We lost a lot of funds. We lost a lot when Garvey was moved on, okay? So we need to understand, when you exonerate, then you open the door to say crime was committed against him. We have an opportunity to go after that. But when you pardon, oh no, we just are pardoning somebody who was guilty. Garvey was never guilty. It was the government of the United States that was guilty. And so we support Dr. Garvey and we applaud and we are happy, but that only ups the conversation so that we can educate people. You need to exonerate Garvey. We need to exonerate Garvey because Garvey committed no crime. And we need to demand restitution and reparations for all the crimes against Garvey, all the crimes against all of our political prisoners, all the crimes against the race, and move forward in that direction. And we're not just talking about in America. We're talking about all over the world, Europe, Africa. We want our repair. Now, we want internal repair, meaning we have to move forward. That's why we say we exonerate Garvey. Because if we exonerate Garvey, then the next step is, what are you going to do in terms of continuing the works of Garvey? Okay? But if you just sit back and say, well, we pardon Garvey, or, pardon, that don't work for us. However, we don't knock it because we love Dr. Julius Garvey and we know a lot of fight went into it. We know I got all the books here that justified Garvey didn't commit a crime, but this government only did that. Biden did that going out of office because he was put under pressure by some blacks who are in government, particularly blacks who come from the Caribbean. And so we applaud the fight, but we exonerate Garvey. I hope you understand the difference. It's a big difference.
Absolutely. Our sister, Yvette D. Clark, is the chairperson of the Black Caucus Congressional,
and they've said they're going to continue to move for the exoneration. We'll see. We don't know whether that's going to happen, but we'll see. But RC 2020 is not waiting on nobody. We exonerate Garvey. And we want to make that clear. We exonerate Garvey. And to black people, once again, this is self-reliance. We don't need Mr. Charlie to do nothing for us. He ain't done nothing for us yet. I'm not saying we're not begging him. And we never have. I want to make that clear. The UNIA has never done that. What happened in 1987, during the centennial of Garvey, we went before Congress to go the proper way legally. And that's what they're still going to try to do. From what I hear, they're still going to try to get him exonerated, but that's a long shot. And I just wanted to let you know, we don't waiting on them. We exonerate Garvey.
Thank you. As we move on to question number 8, educational impact of the pardon. How can the UNIA-ACL best use this pardon moment as a global educational tool to reteach Garvey's message of self-reliance, economic independence, nation building, and unity.
Just what we're doing right now, my sister. We need to clarify because too many lies. Everybody talks about the lies of this administration. America itself was built on a lie. But Garveyism is built on truth. And we say Mahat. We want to practice Mahat. We want to practice Mobutu. We want to be truthful. So we speak truth to power without any apology. So what we need to do is use this conversation to go forward to educate our people on the real truth. And so if you love Garvey, let's build and do what Garvey did. Let's do Garvey. But it's not just about Marcus Garvey. It's about all of those ancestors, some of our own ancestors that were working to move forward in the earlier part of the 20th century. Now what we must do in the 21st century is to, you see some people waking up some places, but what we need to do is to get busy educating people. So what the pardon does is up the conversation, because some people didn't know we was going to get chumped back again. But we got chumped back again. You understand? And they not playing. They got their Project 2025. Our Project 2025 is race first. And I'm going to talk later about that. And I'm Baba Akili. We're going to talk later about that. When I say one of people, we don't have to write our project. We live our project. Our project going into 2026 is race first with other groups. And as I said, the UNIA Rehabilitating Committee is doing just that. Just recently in Sierra Leone, they had a great conference.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
We with you. We can hear you.
Yeah, I know. Something happened to my system. I'm trying to get back to it on my screen.
Yeah, and we see you clearly on the screen. There was just a little freeze, but it went back to normal.
Yeah, but I don't know why I can't see anybody now. I don't know what happened.
But we can see you. It's fine. We can see you for now. And you're very clear.
Okay. I'm trying to get back to it.
Okay. Now, question number 9 is the role of the Rehabilitation Committee, 2020. What role do you see the Rehabilitation Committee 2020 continuing to play in safeguarding constitutional order, restoring trust, and modernizing authentic Garveyism? What role do you see RC 2020?
Well, we have what is called the Mahat Agreement, and we have that with many different groups. We think that's important because we see too many of our people fussing and fighting with each other. We need to set aside our differences. Even the Garveyites out there, I want to say that to everybody listening. You need to set aside your differences, your confusion, and you need to, if you don't know the truth like we know it, that's okay. But what you do is don't come against us. Don't fight. Don't fight your brother and sister. If you cannot hammer it out on the ammo of reason, walk away from it. Study, but do not try to interfere with those that are working. At the Race First Convention, it's interesting because many factions of Garveyites were there. And so we need to continue to do work on what we have in common. We have more in common than differences. So what we need to do going forward is to bring your work to the table. I also work with the Pan-African Federalist Movement, which Sheikh Anta Diop called us to do, to federate Africa. Look at what's happening in the Confederation states of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The revolution is taking place. So we need to be a part of it. We need to connect. Yes. We need to educate our brothers and sisters in North America. You're African. You're African. All of this foolishness about this division causes problems. That's what they do to keep us divided. They're doing the Berlin Conference. They divided the continent to stop us from being unified. During Kwame Nkrumah's time, they wanted to go the direction of the Monroe Group rather than the Casablanca Group because they did not understand. Now people are coming back to that. Unity. We need the unity, you all. We need to be unified despite our differences. Does not mean everybody got to be a part of the same philosophy or the same ideology. But if you're doing anything to uplift Black people, bring your work to the table. There are some movements and groups coming up, conferences in Africa. We will be there. But the best thing we can do is to get with our brothers and sisters who have expatriated, like our third assistant president general, Chief Fode, and establish One Africa. And Dr. Kuda, I've been saying I was going to connect you to. It's very important because all of Africa needs to understand the young people are sick and tired of the foolishness. but they need the wisdom, the direction. They need to understand the importance of being race first. They need to understand the importance of, if you're going to repatriate, you don't go home to get away from the freedom. You go home to build Africa. You go home to build Africa, and you're going to run into problems. So that's the best thing that I can give you, the advice that I can give you, that we're really important for us to continue to build where you are, build your community, become a servant for your family and upliftment for your race, and stop the foolishness and fighting, because as long as we're divided, we don't have power.
Thank you. Our last and final question is, it's not a question, it's a message to the next generations. Finally, Brother Senghor, what personal words, I know you already touched on building, you already touched on a whole lot of stuff, but finally, what personal words of encouragement, warning, or wisdom would you like to leave with the next generation of Garveyites now rising across Africa and the global diaspora?
Well, I would say to brothers and sisters, it might not look as good as it should look, but it's changing. Change is coming. The reason Yurugu, or the system of colonialism is doing what it's doing right now is because they recognize that we are waking up. Enough of us are waking up, and we're coming together. It's no coincidence that the revolution is taking place in the Sahel states. It's no coincidence that brothers and sisters all around the world are looking for the truth today, because we've been hoodwinked, robbed, bamboozled, killed, mugged, robbed, everything been done to us. But one thing you cannot get away from: the cradle of civilization comes out of the womb of a black woman. So every human being living on this planet came through the womb of a black woman. Now, we ain't interested in Yurugu. We ain't interested in the Mongoloid. We ain't interested in the Caucasoid. We interested in the Africanoid, the African, because we know that the whole planet is under attack. Not only humanity, the whole planet is being destroyed. These little hurricanes that are taking place are not just taking place because of natural disasters. They're being pushed by the ignorance and the confusion and the pollution of mankind. So that's important for us to understand. What just hit Jamaica was helped instrumented by mankind, not just the Most High. We need to understand that, and we need to come up, as Garvey said, and be science par excellence. That's why I say this book, Scientific Pan-Africanism, is critical. And also, I got my brother on the line, another critical piece for brothers in North America to understand and around the world is your Gullah sovereignty. Those are works of younger brothers and sisters that are not up in the age of me and the PG, that they coming along. So I will say that we are training some of the best women and young men. And when we are in the ancestral realm, remember, our ancestors are very much alive, but we are confident that brothers and sisters on the continent need to connect with our third assistant president general and build the One Africa Commission on the continent. And as that rises, we in North America, those of us, need to go home and repatriate, go home and carry back some expertise and work. The Chief Fode is a perfect example. He's here with us right now. He was born here in North America. He worked with Brother Malcolm X's grandson. He was a Black Star Action Network International Garveyite, but now he's the third assistant president general. So when you see him, you see PG and Nkrumah. When you see him, you see me. When you see him, you see Dr. Chinzara. He's on the continent, but he ain't alone. And same thing with us in North America. Same thing with us in the Virgin Islands. Same thing with us in Chicago. Same thing with us on the West Coast. Same thing with us all around the world. We are growing. So we say, if you ain't going to join the Rehabilitating Committee, join the work. Because the PAFM, and I can name some other groups too. I'm not going to do that, but it's a whole lot of other groups that we align with. I said the PLM, the Pan-African Liberation Movement. I'm very, very pleased to see that movement. I hope my PG is going to talk a little bit about that, because when we look at the work that's coming out of that ain't nothing but Garveyism. And Garvey has affected everywhere. Runoko Rashidi, our traveling ambassadors and answer, he told us, man, Garveyism is growing in Namibia and all around the world. All we got to do is go wake it up and let them know we ain't gone. We ain't dead. Garvey ain't dead. Garvey's alive. So we say, up, you mighty race. We can accomplish what we will. Stop being content with the food of chickens, because we are rising, and Yurugu knows it. So, and don't be afraid, because if we're left to meet, as Charles L. James say, death would die. One God, one aim, one destiny.
One God, one aim, one destiny. On that note, you touched on the Pan-African Federalist Movement. The first time I met you was in 2019 at a Pan-African Federalist Movement conference in DC. I don't know if you remember.
Oh my goodness, you were at Roots. You were there at Roots.
And there was Brother Bailey, the one who was
Yes,
present the
Peter
night
Bailey.
Malcolm
Yes, yes,
X.
yes, Peter Bailey. Yeah. And by the way, Son was the brother I just mentioned, the leader of the PLM. Imhotep was there. Brother Sam P.K.
Yes,
Collins was there. Brother David Horn, our
was
international organizer, were
very
there.
well
There was a
attended.
lot of brothers and sisters that were there. But the bottom line is, we one movement. Our President General always say, one righteous African movement. And that's one of the things the Rehabilitating Committee has learned. Because the UNIA, and it says it in our Constitution, all black people are members of the UNIA, but those of us who pay dues are keeping up the government. And we understand when it's time to meet at the table, come with a plan. Don't just come with your ideology, your philosophy. Don't come with your black capitalism. And I say that, I'm going to make that very clear. Don't come with your black capitalism. Come to capitalize on African upliftment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Dr. Senghor Bhaye. Thank you. We will open the floor now for, members of RC 2020 that you have invited to attend. If they would like us to get into a little panel discussion, I don't
Well,
mind. That is all good
Well,
and well.
if I could, I would like my President General and my third Assistant President General to pick up and fill up any of the holes that I left or add to anything that I shared, because I know we Garveyites, we long-winded. Sometimes, we speak quick from the mind. We might miss some of the message from the heart, but because they were listening, they know what I said and didn't. Because one thing I did not say, we got blacktricity, sister. That's what connects us as family, blacktricity. And that's
Thank you.
blacktricity. God gave us that blacktricity. So, PG, I don't know whether you want Fode to go first or you to go first, but whichever one of y'all, let the people know what's up.
I'm going to yield to Chief Fode because he's there in Sierra Leone. If he can come back, other than that, I'll speak. Chief.
No, you got it, PG. You first, please.
Well,
Okay.
there were a number of points.
We would like you to first introduce yourself, please.
I am
Brother
Akili Malik Nkrumah. I'm President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League's Rehabilitating Committee 2020. The conversation that you and my brother Senghor had is stimulating. There was just a few things that I'd like to add. One, the Rehabilitating Committee initially was started by Thomas W. Harvey in 1942. It was started in 1942 because there was a disagreement in the emphasis that needed to be placed on the continued development of the UNIA-ACL.
Sorry to interrupt there. So it was started 2 years after Marcus Garvey had passed. He
Correct.
passed in 1940.
In 1940. And in 1940,
Okay.
President General Stewart was elected to fulfill Marcus Garvey's term. And in 1942, President General Stewart was reelected. His emphasis was to be placed on Africa, and many others believed that the emphasis still needed to be placed on doing the work here in the US of A and in this particular hemisphere. And so they did that. But here was the beauty of it. Although there was a rehabilitating committee and they were working, they still worked under the premises of moving the movement forward. They didn't attack each other. They didn't try to undermine each other. They didn't turn and begin to go at each other. President General Stewart moved the parent body to Liberia in Africa, which was one of the missions that Marcus Garvey wanted to accomplish. So he managed to do that. He remained President General, I can't remember the exact year now, but after him being President General came President General Wilson. However, within the framework of the Rehabilitating Committee in 1942, Thomas W. Harvey was elected President General, and then Mr.
Sure.
Sherrill became President General, and then his illness, and Mr. Harvey came back. And then in 1970, there was a Unification Convention, which unified the UNIA-ACL, the two separate parts. During that time, President General Wilson's wife took ill, and the second election was to be held, and Mr. Wilson opposed having the election, which had been decided by convention, which meant that it could not have been changed except by an executive order or some other type of movement. And that didn't happen, and Mr. Wilson then left. So understand there was unification, separation, and unification, and then it happened again. But I say all that just to say this. In the framework of things working for the UNIA-ACL, if you function under the belief and the teachings of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, as well as under the Constitution, you may have differences, but you don't become disagreeable. You don't become the destructive method so that you put African people in a situation to where they become the victim. The object is for us to move us away from being victimized by ourselves. And what you have today is a continuation of victimization of people of African descent by those who profess that I read a book and not took the course. See, all of us can read a book, but because you read a book don't make you a surgeon. You can read a book, but don't mean you can be a surgeon. You can read a book, don't mean you can be an engineer. Garvey said that course had to be taught by people who were taught by him. And we had those who was able to do that. Now, I say all that just for clarification on the differences, because when people look at the Rehabilitation Committee, what I want you to understand is we not new, y'all. We not new. We have historical links for this. And we have a series of president generals, although they removed the terminology Rehabilitating Committee from the UNIA-ACL, because when I joined, it wasn't called the Rehabilitating Committee. That was a historical lesson. See, I had the benefit, as Senghor mentioned, to be educated by two president generals and one lady president, Sister Isaac, who took the course from the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And I'll tell you, she was tougher than Thomas W. Harvey at times. But all of that just to move us forward. See, and then when you talk about race first, you mentioned something about, hey, you pay taxes, so why knock on the door? Absolutely. You pay the taxes. The course teaches you that. You pay your taxes. You got a right to knock on the door. But when you knock on the door, you're not begging. You knock on the door with a demand. And you knock on the door because you help make the door. But in the same time, you have to build race first, because we want to let you know we don't need the door. We don't need that. What we need is us. And when we function based on who we are, we therefore move forward. And that's quintessential to being able to accomplish something. And my brother Senghor mentioned his accomplishment. The one thing he did not mention was 2014.
Yeah.
The 100-year celebration.
What happened in 2014?
The 100-year celebration of the UNIA, 1914, 2014.
Yes.
And we held it in New York.
Wonderful.
Held it in New York. And I mentioned that we at the Malcolm X Hall, we had our banquet. And I say that because when you want to see Black people move, look historically at the things that they did that moved them. And when you look now, look at the things that move the people within the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 and the work that we do. Those people move us. And the other thing, and then I'm going to stop, was we were part of a Race First convention. And out of that Race First convention is going to come a document. That document is going to speak just as the laws that we wanted, Negro rights, Negro Bill of Rights. It's going to speak just as the Negro Bill of Rights. And it's going to speak to the time we're in now. And believe me, it's a race first document. And it's being built for us, by us. See, built for us, by us. You understand? For us, by us. And when you do that, you speak to your needs. You speak to our issues. And you speak to our challenges. And we are prepared to meet those challenges. So thank you for the opportunity. Brother Chief O'Day.
Well, thank you so much, Brother Akili, for sharing the 2014. That was during Brother Dr. Senghor Bhaye's tenure.
Yes.
Because he stopped in 2016. That's when the new President General came in.
Well,
So
okay.
in 2014, you celebrated 100 years of the UNIA
Yes.
in New York.
In New York.
And what were the highlights of that celebration, if you recall?
Let me add, PG.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, highlights were, first of all, we had brothers and sisters that came from all over to New York. Adasi, the African Diaspora Ancestral Commemoration, set up an altar. We were in the hall, the very hall that Malcolm X, the so-called Audubon Ballroom, which is called the Malcolm X Center now. Our speakers were some of the highlights, and our entertainers. And when I say
was in Harlem,
it was done in it was done in Harlem, New York, and Marimba Ani was one of our keynote speakers. Not only at the hall, both times she was at the hall, but we had events there. We had a vendors event there, and then we also had a banquet. During that banquet, Brother Haru Forai Atta was there. Precise Science, a hip hop group, was there. Sax Preacher from Chicago, one of the baddest saxophone players around, was there. Brother Haru Forai Atta, I mentioned him. He was there to entertain.
Also, the brother that portrayed Marcus Garvey.
Yes, Brother Ron Bob Simple. And I want to say
Simple.
that because there's a lot of people out there right now still pushing Ron Bob Simple's spirit of Marcus Garvey as it was Garvey, when in reality, Garvey never said one love at the end of his speech. But I know the voices. I know Garvey's voices versus Ron Bob Simple. Ron Bob Simple's an ancestor now, and he was the spirit of Marcus Garvey. He was there. Also, my queen emulated Nannie Helen Burroughs. And most people in D.C. know of Nannie Helen Burroughs because we got a street named after her, but she was a race-first woman that built a school here in Washington, D.C. My queen has a camp that we do for young girls, and we every year for years. And she also is an actor, and she emulates Nannie Helen Burroughs. So Nannie Helen Burroughs visited us as an ancestor. Marcus Garvey visited us as an ancestor. And it was a powerful event. And you can go to the new Black Learning Channel, YouTube, and see all of that event. And it's powerful, but it's over 130, 140 different videos on that YouTube. But you got to scroll down and you will find the centennial celebrations in 3 segments on YouTube. And you'll get to hear Haru, you'll get to hear Marimba Ani, and you'll get to hear many others. And you will find out why it is important, the work that the Rehabilitating Committee is doing, because like Baba Keeley was I'm glad you hit that one, bro, because that's probably the most powerful thing. Because after 100 years, it gave everybody an example of the leadership that we are doing today in RC 2020. That's important. And I want people to understand RC 2020, as PG said, it's not a new beginning in 2020. It's a revamping of our historical legacy, because the ancestors would not let me and Baba Keeley sleep if we did not do what we're doing. It's that simple. And not just Baba Keeley, our Secretary General Mary Bolter, I could go down the line, Minister of Education, Minister, all of them doing great work. But guess what? The new line, and I'm going to stop because Garveyites could go on and on and on. My good brother, who I had the honor and pleasure of training the course of African philosophy, what happens to be one of the highest graded students coming out of my course ever taught, and that is no other than my good brother, Chief Fode, the 3rd Assistant President General of the government of the UNIA, who's a repatriate, who is living on the continent now. And I know he's pumped up with Blacktricity because he just came off of a big event there with Sizzler, a whole lot of great artists that were just there. And I happen to, Chief Fode, I happen to be on that Ethiopian World Federation network thing of our brother from Ethiopia, our brother from the Chikalakamunga, Brother Abib, and Sister Moses. And it was powerful, Chief. And thank you for tuning me in. But anyway, I'll stop right there, and me and the PG can put a plug in our old voices and hear younger Garveyite voices, Chief Fode.
Yeah, man.
Welcome, welcome, Chief Fode. Please
Yes,
introduce yourself to the audience. Thank you.
yes, greetings. My name is Chief Fode Ajamu Mansoure, also known as Mansur Fode Ajamu. You can find me on social media under Mansur Fode Ajamu, Facebook, IG, places like that. I'm 46 years old. I was born in 1979. I was a newborn baby when Baba Senghor was joining the UNIA. So I'm a baby of this thing. I'm just still learning. But I serve as the founder and executive director for the Black Star Action Network International, which is an organization that I envisioned and got started back in 2009. I had the luxury of starting it with the grandson of Malcolm X, Malcolm Shabazz, the late brother, and others, several others. Very powerful comrades in the struggle. Some of them are in the whirlwind right now. Some of them have passed away and gone to the ancestral realm. But we understood that in this modern era, we was going to have to change our tactics. That we were going to have to actually contend with new forces in order to reach the minds of our people. And so we looked around and realized that the race first mandate had to be revived, that it wasn't enough just to say we're Pan-Africanists. It wasn't enough just to create a revolutionary socialist party, that we needed to really push the philosophy of Pan-Africanism across the board. Be you Christian, be you Muslim, be you capitalist, be you socialist, be you up, be you down, be you left, be you right, whatever you are, to instill race first into this generation so we understand what the legacy of the last century is that we're inheriting. I just really want to say also, before I move forward, I really want to thank Baba Senghor, Baba Akili for making the honorable sacrifice, because they don't have to do this. I know they do. I know they do in their hearts, because there ain't no way that they can't, but they don't really have to do this. But they are. They've paved the way and opened the lane for a new generation of Garveyites to enter. Myself, Brother Shakara, Sam P.K. Collins, Brother Abib Rodney. We've done great works in order to bring a new generation of Garveyite leadership to the table that is qualified, tested, trialed. You check, we represent maybe dozens of organizations, so it's not an organizational thing. It's a matter of being on the same mission. And so the Black Star Action Network International, we call BASANI, is one of those groups that we created to provide a vanguard network to those who already do the work that need to be in communication and collaborate more. So BASANI is more of a network than what you would say a government or a political party or even your normal mass movement. It's literally a network of seasoned Garveyites that understand the mission of the time. And then also, I'm of Gullah Geechee ancestry. My mother and my father both. And so I have the heritage strong. I grew up in Pennsylvania where I was born, but I lived between Pennsylvania and South Carolina as a child, and I got it both ways. I got up north training, I got down south training. And so it's always been deeply instilled in me. One of the deepest relationships that I had with my mother was around our heritage. I was always asking questions, and wanting to know about great-great-grandpa's name, and what about, did he have any sisters? And I'm the family genealogist. Now that she's gone, I'm the one to go to. So I always wanted that ancestral information. I felt like it had more value than money, but it was going to take time. I was going to have to actually ask the right people the right questions. And so now I help other people put their family trees together. But it started with my mother. And so that led me also to having a strong relationship with my Blackness. My mother was born in 1945, Orangeburg, South Carolina, segregated South Carolina. And she remembered picking cotton as a child. She remembered catching the babies. Her aunt and her mother were midwives. She would catch the baby. She would go under the water and see the baby coming out and catch the baby with her own hands when she was young. She was a blessed woman. A lot of struggles, but a blessed woman. And she's actually the one who put me on the path to be an organizer. So within the Gullah Geechee community, I'm part of a group that call ourselves the Gullah Nation of North America. We're Gullah Geechee like everyone else by ancestry, but we have a different understanding of ourselves than the state, than the United States of America, than some even other Gullah Geechee people. We view ourselves as a nation, as people who are born with this identity, no matter where they are. Just like if I was Zulu, just like if I was Yoruba, those are nations, those aren't tribes, right? And so Gullah Geechee I view as a nationality. They say we don't have one, but we do have one. We do have a local native nationality that we produced as African American people without them needing to tag us anything. That goes back to the 1700s of formation. Our people called ourselves this. We create our own culture within the whole process of enslavement. So I serve as the chief for the Gullah Nation of North America, actually the third. Prior to serving as the chief, I served as the international ambassador here in Sierra Leone, where our people have a strong connection. And I was able to make some very strong diplomatic connections for the culture, and ultimately open the door for citizenship by DNA for many, many people, just by opening the conversation with certain people in the government and just, getting them interested, hosting people when they come back, where they didn't have anyone else to go to, and just, taking them in the normal taxis and on the back of the bikes to get to where we need to go. And now we can say we have almost 500 people who've been able to get their citizenship in Sierra Leone based on DNA testing. And that's some of the work that we do as well. So the Gullah Nation is about sovereignty. It's about cultural sovereignty and nation building. We're doing that. We do have a nonprofit organization. I know a lot of people are against those, but for the purpose of preserving our culture, we've seen it necessary to put an actual legal and legitimate entity in place that can live longer than we can. It's an entity for itself. And so we're registered in Louisiana, which has a very deep Gullah Geechee heritage, whether people know or not. A lot of the ancestors from Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina, they were taken over to Mississippi and Alabama and Arkansas and Louisiana during the westward expansion. And so the same bloodlines, the same people
Sorry
were,
to interrupt. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, brother. What is the name of the nonprofit organization?
It's called the Gullah Nation of North America.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it Galona. So
Okay, and is that where if other African Americans want to follow the process of DNA testing in Sierra Leone, is that where they can go to the nonprofit to get help and information?
well, the way they have it set up here, they actually have a policy in place. And what they do is they bring people back on a homecoming tour where they get to know the country, they get certain workshops, they get an introduction to Sierra Leone. Then they come back on the second trip. On the second trip, they will go through the citizenship conferment process. So it is a process, and what they do is they've identified tour operators. And so we do have a company here called Gordon-Dudu, which is a for-profit. And we have a tour operating component to that. And so that way we're in the game. If you have the DNA requirements, you can reach out. We can link you directly with the government and walk you all the way through the process. We've done it for dozens of people. So it's not through the Galona organization, the Gullah organization, but it is through the private company that we'll be able to assist. And if you contact me through the Gullah organization, I'll work with you either way, no matter how you contact me. So if you get in contact with Mensa Forte Ajamo, I'll be able to help you here in Freetown, Sierra Leone, get your citizenship.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to you speaking would want to learn more about what you are talking about. Maybe what we will do, we will invite you back to this YouTube channel, whether we will be doing it live on YouTube or whether we do it this way where we pre-record and then post to YouTube. But I can tell that a lot of people will want to learn more of what you're talking about and how to go about the processes. So we will definitely be inviting you back to the channel so that you can interact with our viewers and the public, that, for those who are interested in following. But you
I
can
look forward.
continue to share. Thank you for sharing. Please continue to share.
Yes, ma'am. I look forward. So I started with Basani. I moved over to Ganona for a reason. I repatriated in 2013. Unlike some people, I repatriated for the cause of Pan-Africanism. I repatriated because I felt as though I had outgrown my usefulness. I seen a lot of repetition, a lot of the same kind of activism, a lot of the same kind of activists all over the place in America. And it was like I was stuck in an echo chamber. I had to break free from the movement almost,
And you're young, and you're vibrant, and you can see these things. It takes a certain level of an individual to see that there's too much repetition and I'm stuck here, I'm not growing. I want to move a step up, and
Yeah.
You are the right person to be, in that position right now, given your age and, your experience also with your parents having given you the exposure, to reach, to greater heights, and which is what you are doing. And thank you for sharing with us your journey
Yes.
and the
Absolutely.
experience mainly, and I think there's so many other young people in your age group in the 40s who want to make that change, who might not even realize that they are stuck in repetition, in seeing the same thing over and over. You can't move beyond. So how do you break loose and move beyond and go a step up, and offer what God has instilled in you as a divine purpose for you to deliver on this earth? So you are following your purpose, and maybe you're going to help others, unlock their purpose and help them follow their purpose as well, their God-driven purpose. But thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. So in the process, since I became an organizer in 1999, that's when I got formal training in my community, followed my mother's footsteps. I became a local grassroots volunteer. I didn't have much of a political ideal. I didn't know much about Garvey. I knew about Garvey. I knew about the red, black, and the green. I knew about Malcolm X, but compared to what I know now, I didn't know anything. I was a baby. But I just had a natural attraction to being a solution to some of the problems. I seen what I could do to make things better, and I started doing it. It wasn't easy because, of course, I was caught in all the backwardness that I came up in, and I struggled through it. I've seen prison, I've seen a lot of death around me, a lot of destruction around me, and I chose to be the opposite of that. So it came through struggle that I obtained Black consciousness. I had to struggle for it. I really had to discipline myself out of an old way of thinking in order to think like this. I'm a reformed person. I'm a rehabilitated person, like this committee. So I understand that you don't get to redemption without rehabilitation. If the goal is African redemption, then we must always be rehabilitating ourselves. The Rehabilitating Committee will always be relevant. As long as even when we're free, we will still need to rehabilitate. And so this committee is a permanent thing, just to kind of go off the side. So about 26 years ago, I got involved in organizing. A few years after that, I went through a serious life-changing experience. And during that time, I educated myself. I just took all the time I had to read, to study, to discuss, just gather knowledge about things. And it became a passion. It was more than just learning. It was like, man, I gotta get more information because I gotta tell my son, I gotta tell my grandchild, I gotta tell my mama this. At first, it was just that. It wasn't like I wanted to go tell the world nothing. I wanted to get information so I could tell my mama. I could tell my son, hey son, you know about this? Just so he would know. And it was just a genuine thing. Later on, I got connected with the movement. I got connected with people that was beyond that level. They were saying, okay, yeah, we're supposed to take care of ourselves and our babies, but what about the rest of everyone else? I'm like, you're right. And I went back to my days as a volunteer organizer and said, well, this is what I'm going to do in the movement. I'm going to be a volunteer organizer for the movement till I die. I'm always going to organize for the movement until it's over. And I got very serious about learning how to do that. So I studied the greats. I studied Marcus Garvey. I studied Martin Delany. I studied Frederick Douglass. I studied Kwame Ture. I studied the greats, the great organizers, people who were able to start with themselves and begin organizing and develop movements around not only their personality, but their principles. Their principles, you see? And so I took note and I just began to reshape myself in the image of those who I admired in a personal way. Later on, when Basani and Gonona came about, I also was very deeply involved with the UNIA activities under the leadership of President General Senghor Bhaye. In 2007, I met a brother from here in Sierra Leone. I was in a different movement at the time, but I was connected to the UNIA in Philadelphia as well at that time. I was doing a lot of activism out there. The Liberty Hall was always a safe place. You know, I'm from a different city in Pennsylvania. I'm from York, Pennsylvania. So I know if I'm in Philly, I can always stop by the Liberty Hall, get some company, dap people up, get some water, sit down, get back on the highway. It was never like, it was like home away from home. I could always go there. At the time, I didn't really feel the need to formally join because I was a Garveyite. What I got to join for, right? But later on, you understand that it's important for you to join organization and be part of the government of the UNIA-ACL. Not any other government. Particularly as a Garveyite, you should be a member of the UNIA-ACL. And you know, seeing the work that Baba Senghor was leading, seeing the work PG Akili and them have been putting on for decades and decades, for me it was like, man, that's where I need to be because I need some seasoning. I'm still raw. I'm still a young boy. I'm still young. I understood my vulnerability, and so
hey, Chief, who turned you on to Liberty Hall? Who turned you on to Liberty Hall?
Malcolm Shabazz.
Yeah.
Malcolm Shabazz is Malcolm X's grandson. He was actually taught by Baba Akili in an African-centered school, and so me and Malcolm Shabazz, we were organizing a national tour to support work in Sierra Leone back in 2012. And you know, he ended up not doing the tour because he was concerned about his security. But he did say, hey, I'm going to connect you with some people. And he connected me with the UNIA in Philadelphia. And I knew about I had been there already.
This is Malcolm X's grandson?
Yeah, my comrade. Yes.
How old was he at that time?
He's about 26 years old.
And is he still alive?
He was assassinated in May 2013.
Wow.
Assassinated.
Where did this happen?
In Mexico City, Mexico.
Oh, so sorry. What a loss. He left us young.
A lot of people didn't even know that we had a prince. They didn't even know that there was a Malcolm Shabazz out there.
Wow.
And so the people who did know, who loved Malcolm and loved the family, embraced young Malcolm, even though he had some contradictions. He had some struggles like we all do. But he was genuinely trying to give us his best self. And I was urgently and eagerly trying to help him realize that in my own way, just by being like a big brother to him. But we knew we needed more than that. We knew we needed elders. To us, elders are our leaders. We come from a certain pedigree. But we don't, before we go to the police or we go to the courts or we go outside of our community, we go look for the elders. We go look for the old heads. We go look for the big mamas. And we go there and try to solve it first. Because we don't like getting the police in our problems. We've been on the other end of the injustice system. And so these are our leaders. These are our kings, our queens. These are our monarchs. These are our leading figures. You know, Donald Trump is nothing to me. He's absolutely zero to me. He means nothing to me. He's not my president. How could he ever be my president? My president is Akili Akuka. And so providing that kind of understanding is important. But Malcolm Shabazz was the one who said, hey, man, if you go to Philly, you got to go through the Liberty Hall. And we did that. I have a video of us going through there with Dr. Cherno Alpha and Ba. touching base, and just showing love. We also visited the Panther building out there, the Black Panther building. And even when we went to Oakland, we stayed in the Black Panther house. It was a great tour. It was a magical tour almost. But after that tour, I was invited to Sierra Leone, and that's when I came here. So the two organizations, Ganona and Basani, they were operating. I was doing my thing. But at the same time, I was just entering the UNIA officially at that time as well. So
was that in 2013?
This is 2013, yeah. 2012, 2013.
Okay.
So Baba Senghor was the leader at the time. I could just remember all the energy of it. The meetings would be packed. The things I would see on social media would be the real deal. I could tell because I'm an activist. I'm in the work. So I could gauge when something is being staged, propped, and when something is really happening, right? And it felt like under PG Senghor at the time that Garveyism was having a rebirth, that Garveyism was becoming more and more of a relevant conversation in a new generation. And I felt like an oddball among my comrades because very few of them felt like we should return to universal African nationalism and build the UNIA. Everybody, very few, even now, there's people who, I'm Garveyite, I'm RBG, I'm this, but they don't feel the need to join the government and build the UNIA. And it's a contradiction, but there's no force.
Why do you think they don't feel the need to join the government and build the UNIA? Do you think it's because people maybe think that the goal that Garvey had set for Africa, because the time when in 1920, we only had 2 African countries that were independent in Africa, and now all 55 are independent from colonization. They are now in the sense that, we have African leaders who are calling the shots. Although, yes, we know in some African countries, our African leaders are bought out. So they still doing things the colonial way, instead of they pleasing a certain group, instead of pleasing the race first, doing the race first approach. So how can we help bridge that problem? But at the same time, do you think this could be the reason why the youth you are speaking to or other activists that you speak to don't want to come to the government? Or is it that they feel that Garvey's purpose has been fulfilled? Or do we still have to go and form this government in Africa?
I think that the UNIA has such a massive legacy. The largest Black organization in history. And so it's intimidating saying, hey, come join us. Whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean? That might be something too big. And so what we've done is made it practical for people. We've created different systems of organization, and we've even extended ourselves to other organizations so that they know that this thing is very accessible, that you're already one anyway in our book. You know what I'm saying? Just, joining will help, would put you in ranks with us who are actually pushing the thing. It's for everyone, but we're the ones who actually pushing, right? And so I think the narrative of the UNIA and Garveyism has to be revisited in terms of the mainstream. The mainstream narrative is very toxic, and it's the result of intelligence operations and Eurocentric interpretations of our history. It doesn't come from the root. It doesn't come from within the UNIA, from Garveyites. It's not our narrative. I was loving what Senghor was giving you today, because all of that was part of the course of African philosophy. Understanding how things have turned and tossed and turned and tossed, and the role of the Rehabilitating Committee throughout the century, throughout the time, to always be there to keep us on track, keep us constitutionally on track, keep us in line with what Garvey left us with. Because honestly, they say a Garveyite is someone who follows Garvey, right? But there's UNIAs or UNIA factions that didn't follow Garvey. There was people who did a election coup of Garvey while he was in prison, while he was a political prisoner. They performed and they voted Garvey out of power while he was a political prisoner and left him vulnerable in the feds. And so there's always been those who would say, no, we're going down the street and we're going to do this the right way. And we're going to put we're going to put Garvey back on top because that's what's righteous. That's what we're supposed to do. And so this rehabilitation is something that is an integral part of how the UNIA has not only developed, but has survived so long. You have other organizations, NAACP, Black Panther Party, right? These organizations, these institutions, Nation of Islam, they have so many factions, 10, 20 factions apiece, right? But the outside world only sees one entity. They never see the different variants. And so we're very aware of that. We're very, very conscious of that. That's why we continue to do the work. This is why when the call was made to form the RC 2020 to rehabilitate, I answered the call. I said, yes, I agree. I believe we have to rehabilitate this. And so we're here on duty. We're here to serve. We're here to serve. We're here to give what we have to our people while we're here, because we know that this thing ain't going to change no time soon if we don't get more Garveyites in rank right now.
So let me, the Chief, I'm sorry, let me interface something that's very important, Dr. Kuda, that you need to know.
Yes.
Chief Foday mentioned a timeline. He was coming towards the UNIA prior to 2016. After 2016, he still was going to come, and Baba Mosi and myself had set up a pathway for Chief Foday to be established a charter in Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, that administration poo-pooed it, did not deal with it. And I want to say that because not only were those of us that were elders that were turned off, but some of the up-and-coming Garveyite youth were turned off and not dealt with. So when you talk about transition, there was no transition. Chief Foday was waiting for the charter to be brought to him that never came. Until RC 2020 established itself.
It was.
I just wanted you to know that, Dr. Kuda, because again, like I say, we're not beating up on nobody. We speaking truth, because the truth will set you free. And those people who are new coming into Garveyism need to understand. You hear Chief Foday, you hear the power that exists in his blacktricity, and you hold that up on the African continent because of whatever reason, because he might have been communicating with Baba Senghor. That ain't acceptable. But anyway, I wanted to say that so that the world knows. Because Chief Foday was cool about it, because I asked him to be cool about it, because he was going to blow the tooth top. Because Chief Foday understood he was being held back from something that was inside him. And even though we facilitated, the so-called leadership at that point in time ignored it. And then later on tried to backdoor him by setting up another entity. See, we need to understand why the younger Garveyites in RC 2020 are strong on going forward and know the history, because that's something we didn't have to show him. He saw that himself. I actually slowed Chief down because I understand how powerful Chief Foday is to the legacy of Garveyism, and I did not realize until 2020 was established. So I had to hold back my President General in 2016. I'm just trying to explain to you, Queen, we did everything we could to maintain integrity and stay positive, and it did not never happen. So we said we can.
Just make me understand one thing.
Yes.
Chief Foday is in Sierra Leone since 2013.
Yes.
Chief Foday wanted a charter in Sierra Leone since 2013.
No.
Go ahead.
No.
I came in 2013. I came here originally, I was building the Black Star Action Network International.
Right.
And we built a movement that has maybe over 150, 200 members active, across the city of Freetown. And we decided that we wanted to, after I was in the UNIA for about 3 years, I believe it was 2014 is when we first went for the charter, 2015. So I was here for about 2 or 3 years organizing, and then we turned that organization into a charter and attempted to get our charter. And we actually started the process while Senghor was the President General.
Right.
But
That's the point I was trying to get to, that if you were looking for a charter before 2016, President General Senghor Bhaye was still in office.
yeah.
So
but
what hindered the progress there, the progress of you getting your charter before 2016 when President Senghor Bhaye got out of office?
No. But see, what happened was that by the time I even got in a reaction from the application, Michael Duncan was President General. And I talked to Michael Duncan on the phone. Michael Duncan told me, my next trip to Liberia, I want to bring you your charter personally. I'm going to come to Sierra Leone and bring it to you. It was 18 months later when me and my wife and our organizers said, hey, man, how can we organize with them when they can't even give us the respect of a charter? If we want to go register a CBO here, we don't even have evidence that we're really with the UNIA. We have no evidence. And so anybody can say we're faking. Why did everyone get a charter but us? Why are we charterless? And so we had a lot of questions. In that, even among our members, some of our members began to break off and go in other directions. Later on, after me and my wife resigned, they went into our application for a charter, contacted the ex-members, and built another division to contest with us here. And so denied our charter, but then after we resigned, used our contacts to create a false charter to contend with us, just to frustrate us, almost like agent
So you are
work.
telling me there is a UNIA charter, but it's under the current Duncan administration?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Duncan denied us a charter, and then he tried to organize a charter with our ex-members here, and we had a charter. We got our charter from RC 2020. When RC 2020 was formed, us, along with other divisions that were being neglected as well, we were finally able to get our charters. After years of waiting to see what was happening, finally we was able to get our charter. So Michael Duncan could have chartered Freetown, but he didn't want to because he felt that I was affiliated with Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. And the honesty is this: I wasn't. I was
right.
I was straight Garveyite. Like I didn't understand what was happening in America.
Right.
But he threw me in the middle of it because I wasn't on his team.
Because at this time, Chief had not taken the course. See, that's what you have to understand. Chief Foday, that's why I said naturally he was a Garveyite, naturally. And he's just one example. I could tell you some others, but I'm not going to do that because Chief Foday, they're not here to speak. But it's other examples too. So, but the point I'm making to you, my sister, I talked to you about the ambassadors. We talk about, and look at the divisions that we have. RC 2020 has now. So we all up and down the West Coast right now.
To add clarity to Dr. Kuda, because I think that's what you were trying to understand is why didn't he get the charter under our administration? The process was started, the election happened, and therefore the process had to be continued by the next administration. The next administration transition. Going through that transition. See, any time there is constitutionally, anytime there is a new law trying to be implemented, it takes 2 years to get that done. 2 years. And that process in and of itself takes time. So as we were attempting to introduce some new constitutional pieces so that all folks could be accounted for as long as they were dues paying and reputable, and then the transition of a person who decided that for you to be a part of the UNIA, you got to give me your resume and act like you're applying for a job. See, that's not how the UNIA function. So when you institute those type of changes without going through the process, you begin to damage those relationships. And so with Chief Foday and others, the relationships was damaged. And yes, Senghor is correct. In 2016, his queen had to quiet the spirit because I saw what happened and I knew what happened was more of a European concept than Garvey's work.
Yeah, yeah. So also to answer what you asked,
Thank you, Brother Keating. Yes, you go on, Brother Fode.
Yeah. So just to continue answering what you asked, I think that in Africa, under the work of the RC 2020, we're seeing the relevance in the new era of how we can implement Garveyism on the continent. And I like what you said in terms of, you know, back then everything was colonized. Today we're still colonized, but it's a new colonialism in blackface. It's the same thing, same system. But we're still fighting too. There's places where we have developed bases of contested territories, the AES, for example. People are waking up regardless. And so under my leadership here, since I've been appointed to the 3rd Assistant President General and over the One Africa Commission, the last 2 years, we've been organizing divisions. We've been setting up divisions, chartering divisions, being on call, helping them understand, getting them educated properly, getting them trained properly, and just, you know, really just being a resource to local divisions in Africa in a real way. So we have a sister division system where, like, you have a division in the United States that will be paired with a division in Africa, and basically there'll be a resource to them. Sometimes they take from their dues and send resources over if they know that there's a project happening in Nigeria or whatever. So we have a division in Nigeria. We have one division in Ghana working on the second one now. We have a division here in Sierra Leone. We have a chartered division in Gambia. We have a chartered division in Burkina Faso. We have a chartered division in Kenya. We're working on a chartered division. Hopefully we'll have one soon in Azania, South Africa. And also we have a connection. We have membership in Tanzania as well. So we're spread out. And our presidents are all on the commission. So the commission is basically the seat of power for the presidents of divisions all over Africa. This is the strategy we came up with collectively to be able to provide a new division building strategy on the continent. We realized that communication had to be better, coordination had to be better. And so we created a commission in order to coordinate and communicate and make sure that we build the Garveyites in the way that it's designed to be built on the continent. And so we have great members right now. We have Brother Achola out there in Kenya doing great work. His grandfather was, his father was a progressive, very progressive revolutionary African. And he left some land behind that he wants to be used for the race. We're talking to him right now to see what we can do to establish an educational institution on that land. There's already a school building, but of course, sustainability is something that will take more commitment than a few bucks, right? So we're working on that. And then also in Nigeria, we have another brother there leading work, and you know, they do a lot of agricultural work there. They would like to do a library there if possible. You know, in the community, a Black conscious library. They something, get people back to book reading, get them off of social media. You know, create book clubs. You know, things like that. They really want to do literacy in Nigeria more than anything. Ghana, we all over the place, man. We got the youth, we got a radio program. We operating in northern Ghana. We about to have a second charter division in southern Ghana. So we're hitting that area twice. We have a young president, a young leader, Kiande, over in Burkina Faso, over in Ouagadougou. They're part of the revolution there, but they also have the Race First Garveyite mind state. So they're tapped in with us, and we collaborate with them as much as possible. Sierra Leone, we do a whole lot of things.
Chief Fode, I don't want you to stop, but PG has got to move on. I want him to give a closing statement, and then you can continue, Dr. Dudu, if that's all right. I know we've been on a long time. I'm so glad that PG was able to join us today. So PG, go ahead before you leave.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Brother Fode. We're coming back to you. PG Akili, thank you for being here and for sharing with us. I definitely will invite you back for a detailed, more, in-depth interview with you. But on this note, this is your opportunity to say your last words, what you want to say to the youth out there and to our listeners, whoever comes across our video on YouTube. What is the message you want to give to the public
Well,
globally?
thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to coming back. But my message to the youth is to stand strong on the principles of race first. Stand strong on the consciousness of being of African descent. Embrace one's culture and principles and stand true to thyself. Because if we do that, we will raise our race to its proper place. And that is where Marcus Messiah Garvey was moving when he said, one God, one aim, one destiny. And we say, one Africa. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
PG.
so much.
Okay, PG, safe runnings, man. Thank you for coming on, brother. Short notice, you know, I kind of surprised Dr. Gouda, but I wanted to make
Yes.
sure that I brought the right kind of energy in that was going to
Thank you so
flow
much.
with the
That was a
blacktricity.
surprise. That was a big surprise. Thank you. Okay. Now, Brother Fode, we will have an extra 5 minutes for you to continue to share. And then we
Okay.
will ask also for Brother Senghor to say his closure, and you can also say your closure. But I am also going to arrange a separate interview specifically for you, targeting the youth, that you can speak to the youth and let them understand, and reaching out to youth in America as well as in Africa, in all the 55 African countries. So that will be a special session that will be advertised for the youth to tune in to your session. But for now, we will give you another 5 minutes to wrap up your share, and then we will ask Brother Senghor Bhaye to say his final words to the flow.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I think I was talking about the commission and how the commission is established to operate.
Yes.
So we have our commission, it's established. The goal is to, of course, establish more divisions that do the work, that do the Race First Garveyite work. So we can be part of anything that's happening on the ground in any country related to Pan-Africanism, that the Garveyites could be there in ranks. And I'll give you a good example of it. I'm here in Sierra Leone, and I'm a part of the Rastafari Council of Sierra Leone. I'm an African spiritualist, not necessarily a Rastafarian, but that's what Rastas are supposed to be. So I align there because they have institutional power and they have international recognition for what they've done. Also see Rastafarians as the fruits of Garveyism. I see Rastafarianism as also an extension of the work of the UNIA and Marcus Mosiah Garvey's philosophies. So I embrace it 100%. And we've done great work over the last decade here in Sierra Leone, to the point that over the last 7 days, there's been what they call the One Nation Reggae Festival. Yeah, a whole bunch of artists from the Caribbean and Ghana. They've been here for the last 6-7 days. The headliners were Sizzla Kalonji. We had Christopher Martin, Queen Ifrica, other people too, like Lushan. We had Arcane, a whole bunch of real fire Rastafari and reggae artists. And we also had people like Mama G from the Trelawney Maroons in Jamaica, Queen Mother. Yeah, we also had the Queen Mother from the Scotts Hall Maroons as well, Queen Mother Jackie. So they were all here with us, and we've been able to make strong connections with them on the ground over the last 6 days because we have organization in place, because we understand the assignment. Rastafarian or not, Pan-Africanism is what we're standing on. And we can't do that without the guidance and the foresight of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Whether you're Rasta or you're not, we always got to reflect on the words and the prophecies and proverbs of Marcus Messiah Garvey as we make our decisions. And so just that work right there has showed us that we can do so much. In the process, we was able to meet with Empress Queen Mother Moses, who is a dynamic, long-term Rastafarian, Pan-Africanist, fire in her bones activist. She's pushing 70. These are the elders that are my leaders. You know, these are the ones who I have to bow to. And she put together a telethon last night and had people from all around the world there and introduced us, me, the brethren, the sister in here on the ground, introduced us to everybody. And we also was able to charter a chapter of the EWF, which we was able to successfully charter, which, if you don't know, is Ethiopian World Federation, but it's for all Black people, not just Rastas, but all Black people. They literally took like UNIA, all Black people, and Ethiopian World Federation, all Black people. No contradiction. We need unity there.
Okay,
So,
wonderful.
Yeah.
You have the EWF out there in Sierra Leone.
Yes, we just
Ethiopian
charted
World Forum.
Federation.
Ethiopian World Federation. Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
And
So
by the
we
way,
just-
Chief, I know we're wrapping up, but Dr. Kuda, the CBPM was featured in that session that Chief Fode is talking about, because Queen Mother
Wow.
Moses, Empress Moses, has a site on the CBPM website, and she goes
Yes.
all the way back. She goes all the way back to when Ross Marvin first put the whole thing together. So I just
Yes.
wanted to stress that. And she also says she's UNIA, and it don't matter what entity she with. But what I'm saying is, I've been knowing Mama Moses for a long time, and like Chief Fode say, she take no prisoners, and I was on that. I mentioned that earlier, Chief. But anyway, go forward, Chief. So I'll let you
Oh,
finish.
wow, lovely, lovely.
I showed you the family
I got to
connection.
know of the UNIA through the CBPM.
Yeah. And the CBPM is a powerful organization as well. They've always done great work. Shout out to Ross Marvin. I believe, from my understanding, Ross Marvin was the alpha, and Queen Mother Moses was the omega, the feminine balance of bringing that to the world. So she's definitely worthy of our recognition. She's done great work to make sure that behind the tour, behind the concert, that we can do some real serious, bona fide, race first, global empowerment work behind the opportunity of bringing the people from Jamaica to Sierra Leone. So it was a very powerful week, and we can only do that if we have an ideology that tells us that we're building the same nation, that we're building the same Africa, that we're universal African nationalists. I don't care what your religion is, only that you're loyal to Africa. And that's very important. You know, we have to instill it more, because behind the scenes, we do a lot of work. But if we don't become more visible and vocal about ourselves, then it could be self-erasure.
True. So
We could erase
it's
ourselves
important
from
for
the-
us to get some form of visibility, to be seen, to be heard, and to be interesting to our youth, you know, because the youth now have got a different worldview of things, and we need to start to make sure that our programs are appealing to the youth, that makes them excited to want to get involved, to want to listen. Like even now with this very first podcast, this is my first podcast on my YouTube channel, interviewing the Honorable President General Senghor Bhaye, Dr. Bhaye. So having you guys coming along, it's a blessing. And having the young voice like yours, Chief Fode, towards the end, it keeps people, you know, interested, especially as we try to draw the youth to understand these concepts of what it is to be race first. It doesn't mean you are being racist. Like this morning, I went to do a little shopping with my daughter. There's certain things that we've decided not to buy anymore. We're no more going to buy the bottles of water. We got ourselves a machine to just make the water purify the water directly. Because
Yeah.
my younger daughter is like, Mom, all these plastic bottles with recycling, throwing away all the time. We just, we don't need to be doing all this. It's too much. So we're trying now to not to spend money out paying for, like Trevor Noah on his YouTube channel mentioned that times are changing. Water is free, but now we're paying for it. Why are we paying for things that God put on earth freely for us to use?
Yeah.
So if we can attract our youth to realize that we don't have to let our monies go to these manufacturers or these companies that make these beautiful designs of the milk in the fridges there. You have this organic milk. You can make your milk yourself. My daughter's bought a milk machine. We know we're going to be buying these different types of organic milks. We can do them ourselves. So we need to start to make it interesting for our youth to want to listen to us. So when we do these presentations, these podcasts, these talk shows, these Zoom, sessions, we need to make sure that it's appealing to our youth. Like yourself, being 46 years old, you understand the stuff better. And that is why you had such a good outcome a week ago for your event that you held. Because you understand what it is that attracts the youth. You know how to diversify things to make things more interesting and doable. So on that note, I would like to thank you, Brother Fode. I'm going to have a session with you on your own, but I want to go back to President General Dr. Senghor Bhaye to give us last closing words, a message, a strong message out there to the communities around in Africa and here in the United States and globally, as Garvey had envisioned the UNIA as a universal entity. Over to you, Brother Senghor.
Yes, Dr. Kuda. First, let me give thank you so much for being the goddess that brought forward this opportunity for this reasoning. Thank you, Chief Fode. I know you're coming off of a blacktastic week or 5 days. I've been following you on Facebook, and brother, it's been uplifting to me way over here. So that just goes to show you. And then capping it off with being with Sister Moses and our brother from Chicalacamunga, Brother Abi, who laid it all out. I mean, it was just powerful. But let me say to all the listeners out there, there was no intention of beating up on anybody, putting anybody under the bus. We just want to make sure that people can hear from us truth. I am still a youth advocate. I'm a proud grandfather of 4 grandchildren, 3 that are grown, 1 that's almost grown. And I'm still a youth advocate. I still work with youth. So I'm all about the youth. I believe that no matter how old you get, somebody else is older than you. I also believe that no matter how long you live, there's some ancestral energy that came before you. So it is important for us to humble ourselves and to also ask for all that may disagree with my vision, my experience, not to be disenchanted or disrespectful or feel like you don't have an opportunity to speak your own truth to power. That's all I'm doing. And God gave me the ability to have the blacktricity that I have. I'm going to call on all the brothers and sisters that hear this to understand it ain't about me, he, or she. It is about we collectivity. It is about you finding out your own destiny and getting up off your apathy and to do something. And it doesn't matter what level of consciousness you have. If it's no more than just giving more love to those people around you, that can help us save the planet, save Africa. So without any further ado, as Garvey say, up you mighty race. It's time for us to practice what we will, because the willpower, the spiritual power is far more powerful than you physically, because we only spiritual beings having a physical experience, but we are here forever. Africa must unite. One God.
One God.
one
aim,
destiny,
Yeah.
one
one
destiny,
Africa.
one Africa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Senghor. Thank you for affording us this opportunity to hear from you, your words of wisdom, and we will definitely be calling you back to this channel. Thank you, Brother Fode. I don't know if you want to say any last closing words.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the platform. Thank you, Baba Senghor, for always remembering me and inviting me to be part of these conversations. It means a lot. You know, it's your responsibility to take care of us so we can take care of the people under us. That's how it
True.
goes. That's how it goes. That's the passage.
True.
So I just want to say also that when we talk the truth, it's not provocative. We just want to get the clarity out there, because if we're being honest about it, about the last 9 years, we've been quiet about certain key details that will allow for people to make a better judgment on the matter. And what I'll say is that I have Garveyite comrades who are in different organizations. Some aren't even nowhere near the UNIA. Some are in another UNIA. I don't care about that. What I care about is the work that we do together in order to win. It's almost like in the United States military, you have different branches of the military. You have different branches to fight different battles, right? You got the Air Force, they fight in the air. You got the Navy, they fight on the sea, right? The Army, they on the land. And so I think it's the same kind of way for us to look at each other and see how best we can collaborate and work towards common Pan-African goals that transcend our organizational affiliations anyway. So I say that because we're still willing and ready and still working with the individuals who are ready to work with us. You know, just don't stand in our way. To stand in our way is ancestral treason at this point. To try to prevent the Rehabilitating Committee 2020 from existing is a deliberate plot to undermine what has always existed. There's always been a committee constantly rehabilitating this thing. And so I would just say, don't feel as though you have to choose one or the other. Choose Garvey, choose Garveyism, choose Africa, choose the people, choose the one nation. And hopefully it guides you our way. And if it's meant for you to be RC 2020, just know that we're ready. Come seriously, know that we're devoted. We're gonna die on this rock. You understand? We standing on Garvey till go. Nobody can stop it. And get involved with the work. We do so much great work. We have our Freedom Friday forums. We have our Be Clean campaign. Sometimes we mobilize all around the world to do cleanups. We have our African State of Emergency program to build a safety and security network for African diasporans traveling to the continent, something very, very much needed. Recently, we had an opportunity to respond to a case of a Rastafarian brother who was basically set up by a local opposition who wanted to steal his land. And they chopped his hair off in prison. And we had to stand lockstep with him and his family until we knew that he was free. And justice is still forthcoming with that, but we're able to operate as the government that we need. We are a government in the same sense that there is a maroon government in Jamaica, in the same sense that there is a government of the people who are exiled, a government in exile, a government, a provisional government that has not yet come into absolute fruition because the conditions for it hasn't yet realized themselves. We're a fighting government. We're not just standing there. We're marching forward. And so it's important to understand what kind of government we're talking about as well, that this is an ancestral people's government and will always exist, regardless of what name we call it. Long before Garvey, we can identify our governance. Long before Garvey, we had a national Black conventions movement in the United States. Long before Garvey, we had Queen Nanny in Jamaica. Long before Garvey, there were systems of government that our people implemented in order to resist white supremacy, in order to assert our Africanness and be sovereign people on this earth. And this UNIA comes exactly from that same spirit. It always has been that. We're not seeking anyone's approval or acceptance. This is an exercise of our sovereignty and our God-given rights to be Black and proud and free and self-governing. And so if anyone out there is down with that, and would like to be a part of this kind of motion that we're creating, I highly recommend you join the UNIA-ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. Get involved, get connected to a division near you. If you have the opportunity, you know, start a division. It's very, very easy. You need 7 people, you know what I'm saying? And the training is there. You can get the course of African philosophy. You know, there's enough of us trained, almost 20 of us trained in the last 5 years, maybe more than that. And so this is an institution. We're now creating the leadership for the rest of the 21st century. Right now, we've used this first quarter to create for the rest of the century. With that, I say one aim, one God, one aim, one destiny, one Africa.
One Africa.
Yes. Together we win. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to close out with the anthem. Can you hear the sound?
I can't hear it.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, we got to back it up so we get the sound.
Hey, Senghor, you see that Tony Martin right there? Our history, our law, our rights, 2007.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a powerful one there, bro.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Brother Battle. Yeah, that's a powerful one there, bro. That's when he declared us as a government. When he came to DC, that's a powerful one, man.
Yeah. I've seen it before. He lays out the history, lays out the law around us being the government and our rights to be the government.
And that one was so powerful, man, because the Rasta community, the Republic of New Africa, the Ansar Sect community, all of them were there, bro. And Tony turned it out, man. And it's interesting because we had to cancel the first one because we had over 20 inches of snow. And we had to move it from the date that it was to the date that it manifested, but it was at an independent school, man. That's a power. That can be found on the New Black Learning channel, by the way. And you can also Google it, but it's powerful.
Yeah, very powerful piece.
You're right. It's a very powerful piece. How you doing, Queen? Dr. Dudu? Couldn't get it.
Yeah, I know there's a part here that I usually have to click that says sound, but I do not see it right now. So maybe I'll just play it from my phone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was curious. Who is Art?
Brother Art. Thank you for attending, Brother Art. He's in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
First family. Okay. I'm with 41, but I'm live in Virginia.
Oh,
and
okay.
I've been following RC 2020 for a couple of years now.
Okay, brother, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
I get on the forum every Friday. So first family.
It's a pleasure, brother. The reason I asked is because my grand stepson's name is Art. And that's what really led me to that. His sister's name is Freedom, and his name is Art. And I just had to. And then also our third assistant president general has a network called Art Speaks. So I just wanted to throw that out there, make sure you wasn't her sneaking in through another name.
Dr. Chen.
Raise first, Stanley.
All right, raise
Raise
first.
first. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Let's
Kula.
keep doing the work. Let's not give up. Thank you.
Yes, raise
Yes,
first.
we will. We will.
Raise first. Thank you.